In the modern age, a world that thrives on constant notifications, endless to-do lists, and never-ending tasks, the idea of focus seems like a rare and almost mythical ability. The protagonist, someone much like you, stands in the midst of this chaos, trapped by a whirlwind of distractions that continuously pull their attention in every direction. It's not just a few distractions. It's an overwhelming flood, an incessant buzz of emails, social media alerts, flashing screens, and phone calls demanding attention at every turn. The protagonist tries to maintain some semblance of order, but every new task and notification serves only to deepen the confusion, drowning them further into a cycle of frustration. Each task feels like a mountain that gets steeper as time goes by. They start their day with high hopes, intending to be productive and focused. But before they know it, hours slip away, wasted on meaningless distractions that add no value to their life. With every beep of a phone, every vibrating notification, they feel their sense of control slipping further away. This is no longer a minor annoyance. It has become a full-blown battle. They are losing their grip on the very thing that seems to define success in today's world: focus. Their attempts at completing tasks become disjointed and inefficient, their mind constantly jumping from one thing to another, unable to settle on any single project long enough to make progress. The world around them seems louder, more demanding, and their ability to shut it out is practically non-existent. At first, they try to convince themselves that it's just a phase, that with enough determination, they'll eventually get a handle on it. But as time passes, the truth begins to settle in. The distractions are winning. They feel helpless. Their focus has become an elusive treasure, one that seems to be slipping further from their reach with each passing day. In moments of solitude, when they are not surrounded by the digital chaos of work, they find themselves still tangled in the web of distractions. Their thoughts wander to the constant pull of the digital world, the never-ending cycle of checking messages, browsing news, or scrolling through social media for a hit of momentary satisfaction. They know these habits are hindering their ability to concentrate, but breaking free seems like an insurmountable task. The flood of information feels like a continuous avalanche, and they can't seem to outrun it. It's a feeling that many people can relate to. In a society where being busy is glorified, it's easy to be swept up in the noise. There's always something to do, always a task that needs your attention, always someone or something calling out to you, but somewhere deep down, the protagonist knows that this isn't the way to live. They yearn for the ability to focus, to dive deep into a task without being constantly interrupted or distracted. They crave the clarity that comes with true concentration, the kind that leads to meaningful, productive work. But the question remains, how can they break free from the noise that surrounds them? In a moment of desperation, when it feels like all hope is lost, the protagonist stumbles upon something unexpected. It's not an external solution, nor is it some magical fix. It's an ancient technique, a forgotten tool that promises to help regain control over their wandering attention. It's a whisper, almost a rumor from a mentor who has walked this path before and emerged victorious. This mentor, a mysterious figure who seems to understand the battle against distractions more deeply than anyone else, speaks of a method that can help reclaim lost focus. This technique, the protagonist learns, is not about forcing oneself to focus through sheer willpower. It's about understanding the brain's natural rhythms, harnessing the way it responds to time and task completion. This technique isn't a quick fix or a gimmick. It's a sustainable, science-backed approach that promises to help the protagonist rewire their mind to better handle distractions. But before they can dive in fully, they must first accept that the road to mastering focus will be anything but easy. As the protagonist begins to explore this new path, they realize that it won't just be about learning to focus. It's about unlearning all the habits and patterns they've developed over the years. The patterns that led them into the battle against distractions in the first place. They'll have to confront the chaos within their mind and within their environment, each distraction a reflection of deeper, internal struggles. But they also know this: the power to regain control is within their reach. It's a daunting realization, but it also ignites a spark of hope. For the first time in what feels like forever, they begin to believe that focus is not an unattainable ideal. It is a skill, one that can be cultivated, nurtured, and strengthened with the right tools and mindset. This is just the beginning of their journey, and they know that the road ahead won't be without its challenges. But for the first time, they have a plan, a way to quiet the noise and take back control of their mind. It won't be easy, but they are ready to fight back. The battle for focus is about to begin. After hearing whispers of an ancient technique that promises to bring focus back into their chaotic life, the protagonist embarks on their first step toward regaining control. The technique, they soon learn, is known as the Pomodoro technique, and it's one that has been quietly transforming productivity for decades. Though the idea seems simple at first, work for 25 minutes, then take a short break, it feels like a beacon of hope in a world full of distractions. The protagonist finds the concept fascinating, almost too simple to be effective. After all, how could such a small change really solve the massive problem of constant interruptions and never-ending to-do lists? But in their desperation, they decide to give it a try. The rules are clear. Set a timer for 25 minutes, focus intently on a single task during that time, and then reward themselves with a 5-minute break. After completing 4 Pomodoros, they're entitled to a longer break, usually 15 to 30 minutes. It sounds almost too good to be true. The first day they try it, there's a mix of skepticism and cautious excitement. They open their laptop, set the timer, and dive into their work, focusing solely on one task for the entire 25 minutes. But within moments, the familiar buzz of notifications starts to tempt them. Their mind wants to jump from one task to another, maybe check emails or respond to a message, but they resist. The timer is ticking down and they refuse to let themselves break focus. The first 25-minute block ends, and they can't believe it. They actually did it. No distractions, no side tasks, just pure focused work. The feeling is exhilarating, like a small victory in a battle that has raged for far too long. For the first time in ages, they felt in control. They take their short break, as instructed, and start again with renewed determination. But as they continue with the technique over the next few days, they begin to notice a new set of challenges. The Pomodoro method, while incredibly effective in the beginning, starts to reveal a deeper layer of complexity. It's not just about focusing during those 25 minutes. It's about the mind's ability to remain on task without feeling overwhelmed. At times, their mind still drifts, even with the timer ticking down. The pressure of performing perfectly during each Pomodoro creates a new kind of stress, one that starts to challenge their progress. There's also the issue of unpredictability. Some tasks require longer stretches of focus, and the constant breaking every 25 minutes seems to interrupt the flow. They wonder, is this really the best way to handle complex, multi-step projects? Or is it only suitable for quick, simple tasks? They feel conflicted, questioning whether the Pomodoro method is the ultimate solution or just a temporary fix. But the benefits begin to outweigh the drawbacks. Gradually, the technique starts to rewire their brain, training it to remain disciplined during each session. They begin to learn how to push through those initial moments of resistance, fighting the urge to check their phone or wander off into a different task. With each Pomodoro, their ability to stay focused grows stronger, and the overwhelming sense of chaos begins to subside. As days pass, the protagonist realizes that the Pomodoro technique isn't just about time management. It's about mental conditioning. The technique trains the brain to prioritize single tasking over multitasking, forcing them to push aside all distractions and focus solely on the task at hand. It's not easy. It's far from perfect. But each Pomodoro is a small victory in their ongoing battle for focus. In a particularly intense session, something unexpected happens. The protagonist enters what is commonly known as a flow state. For the first time, they experience the kind of focused immersion in work that they've always heard about but never believed possible. Time seems to blur and the hours slip away unnoticed. The task that once seemed monumental is now manageable, broken down into smaller chunks that feel achievable. However, even with the Pomodoro technique, there are moments of self-doubt. They start to question whether the technique truly solves the deeper issue at hand, their inability to stay consistently focused. Is 25 minutes really enough to achieve true concentration? Or are they merely skimming the surface? The ticking timer, once a symbol of hope, starts to feel like an ever-present reminder of the ticking clock of their life, counting down the moments until their next distraction. Despite these doubts, the protagonist knows that the Pomodoro technique is a powerful tool. It's the first step on their journey toward focus, the first glimmer of control in a world filled with chaos. But the question remains, can this simple method truly be the key to breaking free from the constant noise, or is it just the beginning of an even deeper challenge? In this moment of contemplation, the protagonist knows they must continue their journey, adapting the Pomodoro technique to their own needs and challenges. The road to focus is not easy, but this ancient technique has opened their eyes to the possibility of a world where distractions no longer rule their life. As the protagonist begins to get a taste of success with the Pomodoro technique, the battle for focus intensifies. The world still feels loud, distracting, and chaotic, but there's a new sense of purpose. But then, in a quiet moment of reflection, they stumble upon another productivity hack, one that seems deceptively simple yet powerful: the 2-minute rule. This rule suggests that if a task can be completed in 2 minutes or less, you should do it immediately without hesitation. The idea is to prevent small tasks from piling up and overwhelming you later on. It's a small act that could, perhaps, unlock a significant change in the way they manage their time. The protagonist is intrigued. The promise of a simple solution, something so straightforward it requires no elaborate planning or complex structure, is too good to resist. Just 2 minutes, they think. I can definitely handle that. At first, it feels like an effortless solution to the overwhelming flood of tasks. Emails that once seemed like mountains of work are suddenly dealt with in seconds. Messages are answered before they can pile up. The dishes, done. That errant paper on the floor, picked up. The little things that used to occupy their mind now vanish in the blink of an eye, and with every tiny victory, the protagonist feels lighter, more in control. The 2-minute rule starts to feel like a powerful weapon in their arsenal against the distractions that once dominated their life. But as the days go by, something strange begins to happen. Tasks that were once completed in 2 minutes now feel like they're taking up more time and mental energy. The protagonist is no longer just completing the small, menial tasks, they're drowning in them. They find themselves checking every notification, responding to every email, and handling minor issues on a whim, one after another. While the rule initially promises a release from the clutter, it begins to feel like they're caught in a never-ending cycle of minor distractions, each one trickling into the next, preventing them from sinking into deep focus. The 2-minute rule begins to lose its charm. Instead of empowering the protagonist, it becomes a trap. Each seemingly innocuous task drawing their attention away from more significant long-term projects. The small acts of productivity are no longer helping them feel in control. They're only increasing the mental clutter. What started as a 2-minute burst of motivation now feels like an endless loop of tiny tasks, each one tugging them further away from the real work they need to accomplish. And then, just when they think it couldn't get worse, a hidden threat emerges, one they didn't foresee. This threat is a villain in their life, a colleague, friend, or even a family member. Someone who thrives on constant interaction, constant conversation, and constant noise. Every time the protagonist tries to focus on a task, whether it's a 2-minute task or a 2-hour one, this person swoops in, interrupting their concentration, drawing them away from their goals. It's a subtle form of sabotage. At first, the protagonist chalks it up to harmless conversation, a brief break from work. But as the interruptions grow more frequent, it becomes clear this person is a major obstacle to their productivity. It's not just that the interruptions are frequent, it's the timing. Every time the protagonist tries to implement the 2-minute rule, the interruptions arrive at precisely the wrong moment. They've just started a task, ready to dive in when the call comes, or the conversation begins. And each time they are pulled away, it's like a crack in the foundation of their newfound productivity. The mental reset after each interruption becomes more and more difficult. What was once a short, simple task now becomes a laborious battle to regain focus. Each broken train of thought takes its toll. Frustration builds. The protagonist tries to stay on track, remembering the promise of the 2-minute rule to clear away the clutter and make space for bigger, more meaningful work. Yet the interruptions make the act of focusing feel like an impossible dream. Instead of working smarter, they begin to feel as though they're working harder than ever, fighting a losing battle against their own environment. It's the small things, the minor tasks, and the well-meaning but constant distractions that begin to chip away at their progress. They realize that the real challenge isn't about finding the time to do small tasks. It's about managing the context in which those tasks exist. The 2-minute rule has its place, but it's not a universal fix. It's only part of the puzzle. The deeper issue lies in the environment they've created for themselves, a world that rewards distractions, that thrives on interruption. The protagonist now faces an existential question. How can they regain control of their focus when the very people and situations around them seem designed to pull them away from it? In a rare moment of clarity, the protagonist realizes that the key to overcoming this hidden threat isn't just in adhering strictly to the 2-minute rule, it's in setting boundaries. They must learn to say no to protect their focus by putting up clear walls against constant distractions. The people around them might not understand, but that's a sacrifice they must be willing to make. They now see the importance of not just completing tasks, but creating a space where they can focus without interruptions. The 2-minute rule, when used effectively, is just a tool. But learning to guard that focus is the real victory. With this new perspective, the protagonist recommits to the 2-minute rule, but with a more discerning eye. They will use it selectively, ensuring that their focus is never compromised by the distractions that once held them captive. They understand that the battle for focus is ongoing, and that the hidden threat, whether it's the people around them or the overwhelming mental clutter, will always be present. But now they have the tools to fight back.